Welcome to episode 138 of the Inside Byte. I'm your host, Tim Schaefer. I'm here with my co-host, Rudy. How you doing this week?
Hey, Tim. Great. We've got our big release, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is very exciting, obviously. So, yeah, man.
I was going to ask, playing what you played so far, but I just remembered you really haven't played that much.
Yeah, not much.
But, so everyone knows where you left off. Where is that exactly?
Yeah, so basically, after I skipped past the chapter 1, if you played the demo, shortly after that, I saw Zach, and he's kind of walking around. There's like the news reports and things like that. Man, what happened right after that? Yeah. A little bit right after that. So I'm assuming, well, we'll get into it in a minute, but yeah, there's a lot going on that there are a few people on YouTube that I was very thankful for because like I watched videos like the one you recommended to me that just kind of discuss everything. Then I watched a few because I'd never played Crisis Core. I always wanted to, I just never got around to it. I watched a really good video on that. Okay. I watched a video that GameSpot made just saying, who is Zach, right? They kind of like went through all about him.
So you get why I was saying, hey, that's totally Zach in the demo with the squatting and all that.
Yes.
You grasp all that now. Okay.
I understand that now. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm oblivious. But when I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, did I see the whispers? Of course I saw them. But I didn't really put it together exactly what was happening until now. Because I was so focused on just, oh my God, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII again. This is awesome. And I had never played Crisis Core, So yeah, I thought that was cool. I think it's actually really interesting how they're taking, it's almost like meta, like they're taking the game that came out back then. And like, at first we thought it was going to be like a remake, right? And then they're like addressing the fact that it's branching off from the original game. It's like they're referencing the game in the game. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting,
Yeah. It's super
like the
weird.
Matrix 4 or something again, how they did that whole thing.
I can see a lot of people not liking that they're doing this, and they're like, man, I just wish they would just remake it with modern graphics, but everything else was the same. But I appreciate that they're putting more work behind it than just that, because this does take a lot of work and effort.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually pretty cool. It kind of opens the gates to like a bunch of new things that can happen,
Yeah. So,
and they didn't just change the events. They made it a part of the overarching story, which I think is a cool way to do it, So definitely way more than just, okay, let's remake it, but let's just change the story because we want to, So.
Because usually, again, it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be, okay, well, here is just new content that takes place after the events, or here's just a remake. I don't know if I've ever seen a retelling, but changing all of these metacore story things and trying to tell a new story while telling the same old story. It's very, very unique in what it's trying to do. So at least I can give it that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, I didn't really get what was happening until more recently, because when I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, I just thought, okay, they're leaving the door open to change the story. I didn't realize that things had already been kind of changing throughout the whole game and being constantly corrected. That little piece, for some reason, didn't register with me. Again, I think it's just the fact that I was so hyped about the original game, and also that I'd never played Crisis Core. So, but I think it's really cool now that I've watched all the videos, but I think this is perfect. I think the way that things worked out this week is perfect because there's definitely still a lot of things I want to clear up so I can be 100% invested. I did try to watch a video on Dirge of Cerberus, but I was just so confused. I was like, you know what? I don't even know if I need this, honestly.
There's a very small section. Did you ever play the DLC? The Yuffie DLC?
Yeah, I did.
There is some Dirge of Cerberus stuff in there. One of the guys you fight, his name is slipping my name right now. It's like not Neon. Regardless, there is a nod to Dirge of Cerberus with a certain guy, and they may be coming back with some key specific Dirge of Cerberus characters. So we don't know. I don't want to be confident like, oh, we really don't need to play that. Maybe. But as of right now, it seems pretty like if it is important, it's like not even 1% of the overarching grasp of the situation, and it's pretty small, tiny part. So that may change. I have yet to know. I mean, again, So, before I guess we get into this Final Fantasy VII stuff, let's explain what's going on with this episode. So, usually would have news, go over what we're watching, what we're playing. But the news this week, all I'm finding is like just studio layoff stories and other studios maybe like gaining power over their teams again and stuff like that. So it's a lot of talk in that realm, and not interested in talking about that. Not that it's not, I guess, interesting at its core, and you could really dive into it and get to the business side of all that. But me personally, don't really. It's only because it's been dragging on for so long. I mean, we're talking 2 years to where if we were to talk about these stories, they'd be like 3 or 4 every week. And so I've been dodging them for a really long time and mentioning like a really key thing here and there, just so there's some part in our news. But me personally, it's I don't want to spend the whole episode talking over stuff like that. Not to say that it's not important or that it's not bad or wild and whatever, but I don't know. A full episode on it just turns me off of me even wanting to do that. But
no, I totally agree. I don't think there's any need for it. If we want, I can just mention quickly some things I'm playing if you want to squeeze that in. All right. So I did try out the Unicorn Overload demo, and let me first say that I think it looks like it is a good game, right? The thing that's throwing me off, I think there's just a few things about it that aren't really my favorite things. For example, like even Fire Emblem. Everyone loves Fire Emblem. We all know Fire Emblem is a good game, but for some reason, I've never been huge into them. I think the reason why is I don't really like the whole you approach the enemy and then the battle happens. I think I like it better when you kind of do it yourself. Again, not a knock against it, just a personal preference. And then the other thing about Unicorn Overlord, is the first thing I noticed immediately is the visuals are so good. It looks amazing. Like,
what are you playing it on?
Oh, nice. I was playing on Switch, and and I even think it still looks.
That's what I'm wondering is like, am I going to lose anything playing on Switch? Because I would like to play it on Switch over other things, but I don't want to like lose in a lot of its like visual aesthetic. I don't know.
From what I played, I don't think so. It ran well. It looked good. I didn't have any problems. So.
Actually, is the demo on all platforms? Because I could just test that out myself.
All platforms, but not PC, which sucks because I wanted to do it on the Steam Deck. Okay. But yeah, I think it's on Xbox and PlayStation as well.
Like demo? I mean, I know the game is, but is the demo on
all the demo? Good question. Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Let's see.
But, well, while you look that up, the visuals were really nice. The story already off the bat, I was like, okay, this seems interesting. It just all started getting a little complicated for me, like a lot of moving parts. I don't know. Something about it was just making me not. I got like 2 hours into the demo. I'm like, am I enjoying this or am I just playing this because I feel like I have to? And then once I realized my answer was the second thing, I put it down. Now, I might come back to it. I don't know. But I don't know. I loved like triangle strategy and games like that, for example, but this one's a little different.
Yeah, you like turn-based tactics or just tactics in general kind of thing. This isn't. This is like setting up your troops and then a battle taking place. Yeah, I'm really unsure what to call that. I mean, I guess it fits into the strategy realm, but I don't know what exactly. But yeah, I've never played anything like of this type, so I really don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. I do see the demo is out on other platforms, so I'll try that out.
Give it a try. Yeah, see what you think.
And just compare between Switch and Xbox or PlayStation, one of the two, just to see if I'm losing much. And if I'm not, I'll probably just go to Switch if I'm even getting this game. But here's the thing is, like, this studio has yet to even make an average game. Everything they've made have been gold. So that reason is why I really just want to get this. But again, the exact genre it hits, I don't know. I've never really played this type. So I'm guessing, but I don't know enough about it because I've also never played any Suikoden game. But apparently Sudoku, I don't know how to say that, but they are in a similar genre as this, but I've never played those either. So I really And maybe I'm wrong there, but I think that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to play those games, so I'm also going to play those games here whenever like remake comes out, or at least like give it a shot. I'm hoping for a demo, something like that. But either way, it looks great, at least visually, and that's what makes me want to play it over anything else. So, okay.
Yeah. And again, I think I can tell that the game objectively it seems like a good game. Like, I'm not saying it's not, but just wasn't grabbing me. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you think. And it has that cool thing going on where you can transfer your save over to the real game. So I'm glad that's becoming more popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I played that a bit. Like I said, I played a bit of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which we can talk about. But besides that, I don't even know did I mention that I beat Spider-Man 2 or no?
Yeah, last episode.
Yeah, I did talk about it. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, the only other thing is that game, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
The remake.
Was the first game by Joseph Fares. Yeah. So I played the remake on my. By the way, I got the new Steam Deck. Man, this thing is so nice. The screen, it's just beautiful. Like,
did you play Octopath Traveler? That's what I want to see.
I fired up Octopath Traveler before I even sent out my old Steam Deck. I wanted to see like kind of what it looked like, so I threw it up and then I put them up, and it's so much nicer looking, especially that game. I was like blown away. It's so nice.
You were able to like stick them side by side before you shipped the other?
Yeah, okay, I did like a offline thing with the first one, and I was able to do it.
Okay.
But my God, it's such a world of difference. And then I threw on, even in Octopath, it now you can reach 90 hertz on the new Steam Deck. So I was running at 90. I was like, that's really cool. I tried Cyberpunk. That was running much better than it did on my first Steam Deck. The battery life is much better. It seems like I don't have to charge it nearly as much. It's just a big improvement. I'm really happy with it.
Cool.
But yeah, so that being said, I did play the Brothers remake, and do I feel like they really improved a ton of things? It's not a crazy improvement. Like, yeah, it looks nicer, new models and things like that, but it still doesn't seem like it's optimized the best. At least on my Steam Deck, it wasn't. And it's a really old game, so I would think, it is a remake, yeah, to be fair, but I thought it would kind of run a little better.
I think in some ways it was looking a little rough, like as if the original game could look better depending on, like, I don't know, your, viewpoint on it.
I don't think it's the best remake, but I definitely did enjoy playing it again. Great game, very short, like 3.5 hours long, maybe. Very cool story. Yeah, no sort of language, just like the Sims talk, like what the that whole thing. But I really liked it. It was nice playing it again. So I flew through that real quick, and then I put it down. And then just because I had the new Steam Deck, I started downloading a bunch of games again just to quickly try them out and see what I want to play. I downloaded Hades. I downloaded Transistor. I downloaded Super Meat Boy Forever. Just a bunch of games that I've had that I haven't played that I think would be great for the Steam Deck. And yeah, so nice to see all those games on there. So I'm definitely going to be messing with more of those coming up. But yeah, man, that's all I've been playing lately. Now I'm full 100% going to be playing Final Fantasy. So
yeah, so this whole rest of this episode, we are going to talk Final Fantasy VII sort of like as a whole. I'm not going to get into like story specifics in Rebirth, which honestly, anything I would say right now of what I know isn't even that key anyway. But just so people are aware listening, like, I'm not like over halfway done with the game and I'm going to get into a bunch of story stuff with Rebirth. The point of this is spreading out all the information that we know leading up into Rebirth, trying to, we'll use you as a scapegoat here, and just any questions you may have, we're going to dig deep into Final Fantasy VII lore stuff, and we can use you as like a funnel for the audience of like any questions that you may have as we're explaining this or that, ask. That way we can get into more detail on this or that other people may also be confused on. But we are just going to go over from the beginning of Final Fantasy lore all the way up until Rebirth starts.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think how to really go about this, and I guess we're going to start Crisis Core because that takes place 2 years. It goes over a year or two and bleeds right into where the original game starts.
Right.
Like I said, Dirge of Cerberus I mean, there are some things, I don't even remember their names, but there are some characters that may creep back up. And let me see here. I would know by the villains. So, like, Dirge of... Because there is a battle that takes place in the DLC that nods to Cerberus here.
Okay.
Nero. That's his name. So, I want to say there is a Nero fight in the DLC. Nero... Yeah, Nero's the final is the final boss of Intermission.
Yes, I do remember that.
And Nero is from Dirge of Cerberus. And yeah, if you pull up an image of him, just do like Nero Final Fantasy VII Remake or type in Dirge of Cerberus and you'll see. So there is a lot of pretty interesting lore around him and his partners and stuff like that, but it's like my least knowledgeable base. I guess I'll catch myself up on it if I feel it ends up becoming worth it. Otherwise, I'm just going to sort of ditch it aside. So we're going to ditch all that as well. Now, we're going to start here, Crisis Core, with this whole bit of... So, Zack is in Soldier, and in Crisis Core, he doesn't start first class, okay? He actually just starts as normal soldier, and throughout the game, he is trying to become first class. And then I want to say about midway through, he becomes first class. Right. Now, the sword that Zack has, for example, that's not his sword originally. It's Angeal's is his name.
I watched a recap. Again, I thought it was very well done. I learned a lot throughout.
Okay.
What I didn't understand is... I know that Genesis was also in their crew at first, right? And the guy, Angeal.
Genesis, Angeal, and Sephiroth are like friends.
Right. And so what is it exactly that happens to them that starts mutating them again? Like the copies start coming out and all that stuff. What exactly is it that causes them to start degenerating like that?
So I think it's just because of how they're even formed to begin with.
Oh, how they're created. Yes.
Because they end up being created by Professor Gast is his name.
Yes, now I remember. And the reason why they're kind of falling apart is because they're not like the perfect one like Sephiroth, right?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. I was wondering why the wing comes out. That's what I was like. Is that just part of the process? There's no like rhyme or reason.
Yeah, there's just a wing involved because of their degeneration, you could say.
Gotcha. All right, continue.
Yeah. So them three are friends. They start to split apart over different disagreements because they all hold a lot of power, right? Angeal is taking this more like hero approach of just like trying to do good. The same with Sephiroth. But Genesis is like very much just artsy fartsy in the corner, obsessed over like poetry and art and all of this stuff, and doesn't want to be in the spotlight, doesn't really talk with him too much, all of that. And then I guess he almost goes down a rabbit hole, kind of how Sephiroth does later on in the series, to where he starts questioning things too much and then starts to become like evil. But in his mind, he's doing good and not evil by like cleansing the earth. So like Genesis is basically, if you want to view it like a Genesis manner of what Sephiroth ends up becoming later, of like trying to get rid of anything on the planet and get rid of humans and all this, because they see him as like people that are just infesting the earth and making it worse, which argumentatively like we probably are, but that's besides the point, I guess. I guess if you really want to fight for the planet, maybe you can go around killing humans, and in some weird twisted way you may be right, but I'm not gonna say that that's right.
So just to clarify too, so we know Sephiroth, when he goes off, it's because he starts questioning everything. He learns about Genova and everything. Hold on. But how about the other guys? Were they also made from Genova, but they just didn't come out as good?
To my knowledge, I mean, they were all kind of made around a similar time frame.
And Genova is not how they initially believed of the ancients, and Genova is just an alien life form or something.
She is also just a creation that they've made to our knowledge, but maybe more to the root core of the planet than what the others would be.
Got it.
Because it was like the origin of all of this. They basically used Genova cells to make Sephiroth, Angeal, and Genesis from that Sephiroth or from
that makes
Genova.
sense.
Yeah.
All right,
So all that's going on. The growing up, sort of like doing different things. Angeal and Sephiroth are still pretty close throughout like Crisis Core.
Yep.
So Zack is just training, basically. So we'll start here. As Sephiroth is still good, okay? So Zack and Sephiroth are assigned to kill Genesis and Angeal, okay?
Yep.
Because they are starting to go off, do all this weird stuff. Even Angeal, at this point of where we're starting on this timeline, he is now starting to question things. Like, I think he's starting to like feel the degeneration, and it's starting to get to him and mess with his mind. And maybe that's why they all just go bad, is because their mind starts to become poisoned. And I think they even word it like that in the games. So Angeal is basically like starts acting super weird and crazy, and then just, I think, realizes he's acting weird, so he just like disappears. And Zack's like, where the hell did he go? What is he doing? All of this. And then so Zack and Sephiroth go to basically find him and kill him, because they're apparently doing a lot of wrong here.
Right.
They go on this mission, and Zack ends up meeting Aerith inside of Midgard on one of their missions as well, because he actually does the same thing that Cloud does, where he like falls down through. Yes. But originally it was Zack who like fell in the flowers. Aerith is sort of talking with Zack, and I think Zack didn't have to do anything that whole day, so he just spends the whole day with Aerith doing various things, and then Aerith starts like really falling for him, and they go on like a date and stuff, and they start to become pretty close. And Aerith, you can tell, like really likes Zack, and I think vice versa.
Yep.
Also, after those events, Cloud is sort of moving through the ranks, and Zack is starting to notice some, and Zack starts befriending Cloud. But they never really like go on any missions together or anything. They just happen to be a part in the same organization. But Zack is like just starting ground level work, where Zack has now, at this point, when he starts to friend Cloud, let's say like a year in or so. So Zack defeats Angeal and inherits the Buster Sword.
Oh, yep.
So that happens. He gets the sword from Angeal at the end there. And then we're talking about the Buster Sword that Cloud has, okay? There's this whole bit throughout Crisis Core where Zack's always making fun of Angeal because he hardly ever uses the weapon.
Yeah.
And Angeal's just trying to keep it in like peak condition and will only use it if he has to, kind of situation there. So the sword is in great shape, let's just say that.
Sure.
Now, the Nibelheim incident happens, next plot point here, and which, when you play the Rebirth demo, that's what that is, okay?
Yeah, where Sephiroth kind of starts questioning things, kind of loses his mind.
Yeah, and up until that point, Sephiroth is like genuinely a good person and really trying to do good and be a hero and all that. Now, he's a lot stronger than most people because of those Genova cells and all that, but that's what's going through there. Genova is removed from Shinra HQ, and again, that takes place in that demo. He's just the whole bit. Actually, in the demo, does it show where he goes and rips the head off? No, they discover him in the demo. And then when the demo ends, and then soon after that, they then show him going up in there and ripping the Genova head off. Which I don't know if you saw that and what you were playing, because you only played like
did when he's there and you like come up to him.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
And then Cloud's like, "Oh, I don't remember what happens anymore after that." And when he's talking in calm, they show Sephiroth like ripping the head and like blood's flying, and then soon after that he just says, "Oh, I don't remember anything anymore." Now, what's funny is in the game and in Crisis Core, they show this whole bit of like Cloud basically getting stabbed And then as the sword's in him, he pushes him off the ledge, and Sephiroth falls into the Mako reactor. And he's just straight up in it. Anybody would die from that kind of situation. Right. But right before it does the bit where Cloud pushes him off and he falls, Cloud just says, "Oh, I don't remember what happened anymore." So there could be a difference now already with just that incident. But we'll keep going here. So 4 years pass from when Jenova is moved to the Shinra headquarters. After Sephiroth removes the head, the rest of Jenova gets moved to Shinra headquarters. Right. And then 4 years pass, and Zack escapes the Shinra mansion with Cloud. So if you remember in the original game, and you may have seen different images of like flashbacks that they show and stuff of like Zack and Cloud, they end up getting caught by Shinra throughout some of their missions. And actually, I think it's right after the bit to where, because Cloud gets stabbed by the sword, Sephiroth falls into the thing, Cloud's super, super weak, and then Zack and Cloud get captured after that moment. And I want to say for years, they were getting experimented on by Hojo. So they were in these like sort of green test tube things and getting worked on and getting looked at and modified and all of this for a long time.
Yep.
And then they escape the mansion. Zack defeats Genesis after their escape. Yep. And then towards the end of Crisis Core, Zack dies. Then Cloud inheriting the sword, because as they're about to arrive to Midgard, they get stopped by Shinra troops. He just gets shot up by multiple soldiers. Cloud stays alive. On, right? Yeah. Cloud's like, after everybody leaves, goes see Zack's dead, crying and all that, removes the sword from the ground, and then has this mentality of like, well, I'm gonna be Zack then, and I'm gonna be a first-class soldier and tell everyone that whatever happened with Zack, I'm just gonna say happened with me, and I'm gonna become this, try to be a mercenary and try to make some money and tell people that I'm first class, and I'll have this uniform and sword to show that I am, even though I'm not, kind of situation there. So that's where Crisis Core ends, and then right where the game starts is that's when you see Cloud with the Buster Sword doing his first little mercenary mission. As Zack. I mean, he says that his name's Cloud, but everything else is Zack in the way that he tells about how he is, who he is, what he knows, all that. But he's lying. Now, he's pretty strong because of all the Mako stuff. But
hold on, Tim. Before we get to the bombing mission, I can't remember, why is it that Cloud, it says he's catatonic? What, he got like poisoning or something, right? Didn't he get?
So that was with Zack and Cloud. After Zack got stabbed by Sephiroth, pushed Sephiroth into the Mako reactor, but he's super weak. They end up getting captured by Shinra soon after that. Zack and Cloud do. And for years, they're getting lab work done on them. During that moment, that's when all the modifications go down.
Gotcha.
So they basically get injected with Jenova cells, is what it is. Hojo injects him with, but both of them also already had Mako poisoning, which doesn't make you stronger, but definitely starts degrading your body and poisoning you and all that. But because they got those experiments done on them by Hojo in that lab, they're able to work through the Mako poisoning where a normal person would die from it, kind of situation.
Why did Zack? But it seemed like Zack was able to get through it way easier than Cloud, right? Like Cloud, was barely able to,
because he's been used to it for many years, to where Cloud was like new to it for the first time. Okay, and that's what they say. That's the reasoning there. Because I wondered the same thing. I was like, well, yeah. But Zack's just been around it his whole life, and I guess doing various missions and being around the Mako poisoning, to where Cloud was sort of super new to it, and it reacted with him a lot stronger because he never really had any Mako in him previously.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So that all, again, and the Crisis Core. Now, before we move on to the original game, we're going to go back to the beginning again and go through some underlinings that were taking place in the background the whole time, because this background is not only taking place during Crisis Core, it's taking place during Remake and will continue to take place during Rebirth. So,
yep.
Back when Zack and Sephiroth were assigned to kill Genesis and Angeal, there was someone starts messing with the timeline. There's an unknown series of events that are already tampered with during the 1 to 7 years before the original game. And that 1 to 7 years is Crisis Core is in that mix, right? But somewhere between there's somebody working behind the scenes messing with timeline stuff. So during the Nibelheim incident, the same thing is happening. There's inner workings going on in the background. All the timeline changes result in a different stamp design, which if you watch that Maximilian Easy Allies thing, they go into the stamp thing as well. It's a big piece when people are talking lore, because there's like this stamp that appears where like it's not there originally, but there in the other timeline when you're looking at all the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff to sort of differentiate between you actually being in the moment or you being in the timeline. Anyway, gotcha. So it'll flash this stamp design throughout various things to tell you which timeline you're in. So right, anyway, okay. But there's completely different Midgar design structure when you're seeing that stamp design as well in that various timeline. And then there's the planet deems timeline changes are too severe and irreparable by the Whispers. And then a planet summons Harbinger weapon. The Whisper Dome starts to form over Midgard, the containment field ready for the mass correction. And then so it starts to build up in the background here of like, we're going to make sure things revert back the way they should be. And you have all of these Whispers. They're calling like Arbiters of Fate is what they call them, which their whole mission is just to make sure the same events take place as the original game does. And anytime anything tries to change, here comes these Whispers trying to change it back. And that was their whole goal. What's the Harbinger weapon again? Is that just... So that is at the end of Remake what you fight. Like Planet Summons Harbinger weapon. Okay. So basically Planet deems timeline changes too severe and irreparable by the Whispers. Okay, and then mass correction event. Okay. But why does it say Harbinger executes? That's the thing that is correcting everything? I mean, I guess that's what I'm... Okay. Writing all affected events, memories, and physical elements back to the original timeline. Okay. So there's a paradox that takes place because they're going between different timelines here. Before the original game starts, there's this temporal paradox. So when Cloud and party destroy the Harbinger and the Singularity, this instant undoes all Harbinger actions through time. However, by undoing the earlier mass correction event, this results in a grandfather paradox. This causes a timeline fracture, second reality, to branch from the points of the original mass correction event. So at the end of Remake, they do the whole fight, they break it, and then they break this whole like, oh, well, now we broke the thing trying to change the timeline and it's not going to happen anymore. But because they did that, it caused something in the past to forcefully happen because of that event. It's pretty weird big brain thinking here, but that's what happened. If it makes sense, it doesn't, I don't know, but that's what's going on there. And then so basically us destroying the Harbinger at the end of Remake. It off. Yeah. Right. Instead of correcting over and over and over, now it's just a different timeline completely. Yeah, but see, that's where it gets weird is like, well, we still know that there's two timelines even in Rebirth. At least I think so. I guess that's not confirmed. I actually don't know the answer to that because in Rebirth, like you were saying, you're getting the whole scene immediately right when the demo ends and the game starts. You see all these scenes with Zack and they're doing the whole newscast and all that. We're all thinking, okay, this has got to be a different timeline. Midgard looks completely different. Wasn't destroyed yet, all this stuff.
Right.
And, well, it got destroyed, but by completely different. Anyway, I'll get into it. But meets with Aerith and all of that. And in the game, you actually, like, right after the newscast and you see Zack and stuff, you actually, like, meet with Aerith and you actually, like, pick her up, walk with her. You're definitely with her. She's not with the party. It's a whole nother timeline or deal going on. But why is there another timeline going on? Because I thought that whenever we fought the thing at the end, that we're breaking all of that to where, like, oh, there's no longer going to be something trying to recorrect and make things go to normal anymore. But maybe that just means in that timeline, and maybe in the other timeline it still happens. That's where I'm confused in all of this.
I guess what I'm getting from this is we destroy the Harbinger thing. No longer is it successfully correcting things and keeping a single timeline.
Yeah.
And it just branches off to another. So now there's two timelines going on. We're in Rebirth timeline, but in the other timeline, it's still normal, like following the normal story, I guess, right? Even if but is it still going to keep correcting?
The normal story is still different because now Zack's alive, walking through it all.
Yeah, but in the other timeline, Zack's not there, right? Like Zack's in this new timeline.
Zack's alive. In the new one, yeah. I misunderstood you, but Zack's in this new one. He's not in the current, yes. So there is two timelines there. So
right.
Did we just destroy them messing with only one of the timelines, but the other one still just gets to get messed with?
I think it's even. I think it's even different than that. I think there wasn't another timeline yet. I think it was just the events were attempting to do that, but it kept getting fixed.
And we created the split. Okay.
Right, where it splits off with the blue and pink. I think at least that's...
No, I think you're right.
But you know what? I will say, like, the fact that we can even have this conversation about this is way more interesting than just playing Final Fantasy VII again. You know, this is actually way cooler.
I agree. So the original game starts. Tifa finds Cloud, and Tifa finds Cloud, almost brings him back to health, and then they agree to do this bombing mission, which is where the game starts.
Right.
So Cloud's now with Avalanche, which again, Avalanche is this whole spread of things. So
yeah,
Avalanche. Okay, they say in Final Fantasy VII and the original game and in Rebirth and all that, Avalanche is like the group with Barrett and Cloud and Tifa and Jesse and all that, right? And that's Avalanche. But originally, Avalanche, the name Avalanche comes from a group within Wutai. But they are not tied to Wutai, so it's like they were like inspired by them and took their name. But they were actually this anti-terrorist group, or maybe terrorist group within Wutai, and I don't know, maybe there is a connection there that we have yet to realize. But just that's in the back of my head there when it comes to Avalanche.
Sure,
there's more to Avalanche than just them. There's definitely deep ties to Wutai fighting Shinra and stuff like that. Anyway, so the opening bombing mission takes place as that is going on in this other timeline here of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth timeline. Sephiroth starts...
remake?
Yeah, remake. My bad.
Okay, yeah.
My bad, not Rebirth. Sephiroth starts playing with Cloud's mind, seeding Barrett's distrust. So he's trying to do all that. He's also appears in Cloud's head to prevent him from meeting Aerith. Cloud meets Aerith outside the Loveless Theater because the Whisper's recorrected.
This is correct, yeah.
And then Sephiroth keeps Cloud asleep to ensure his omission from the bombing of Sector 5, but the Whisper's recorrect, and then...
Yeah.
As all of that's going on, Cloud does end up meeting Aerith outside the Loveless Theater in the original, but he still ends up meeting him anyway because the Whisper corrected, right? Sephiroth was trying to get him to do this so he wouldn't go meet Aerith. The Whispers would try to get him to go, not Whisper, Sephiroth would go be like, hey, go to sleep and sleep longer and stay asleep. That way you won't wake up to go do the bombing mission, because they know, like, they were already on edge to where, like, Barrett wasn't trusting him because of Sephiroth playing with his mind and all that, and trying to get Barrett to hate him more than he originally did, so they'd want to leave without him. But anyway, so all these things are happening in the background to try to recorrect back to the original game, but Sephiroth keeps trying to prevent it from happening, because, you know, at the end of the original game, you know, Sephiroth does a supernova and basically, you know, not destroys the planet, but destroys a large part of it, and a meteor does actually hit Earth. And there's a lot of damage after the fact, but Sephiroth wanted it to be completely taken care of. And so he's trying to go back in the past and try to change things to try to, like, I'm guessing, to wipe the clean. But again, we don't actually know his true intentions. So that's still, like, up for debate of, like, what exactly is Sephiroth trying to change and have done now. Anyway. All right. So Cloud joins Barrett and Tifa for the Sector 5 bombing mission. Cloud meets Aerith again in the Sector 5 church. Party learn of Sector 7 plate drop from Dawn, because that was the guy, Dawn's mansion, just basically, like, trying to
dressed up.
Yeah. Trying to basically get in Cloud's dress, and then he ends up, like, admitting all this stuff to, like, well, they're going to go ahead and just drop the plate on a bunch of people, killing hundreds, if not thousands, and then try to blame it on Avalanche.
Right.
So they learn from that, and then in this remake bit, Cloud arrives to Sector 7 plate too early, and so the Whispers correct it to where Aerith decides to do the best she can to save Sector 7. Aerith inspires Wedge to keep people at Shinra guards to open the gates. So when the Sector 7 plate drops, in the original, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse dies.
All three of them.
And Aerith is captured by Shinra. In remake, it's Biggs and Jesse die, but Wedge survives, and Aerith is still captured by Shinra.
Yep.
Now, I think in both games, Aerith just accepts to be captured because they were right there anyway. They didn't really fight. She just kind of like, yeah, just take me kind of situation. Just don't, because she's there with Barrett's daughter, who isn't his real daughter, but is, I think his name's Dane, that he was friends, Barrett and him were friends, and then there's this whole scene to where, like, Dane gets killed, Barrett loses his arm, and then that's how he has the gun arm now, and then agrees to, like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to, like, take this kid because nobody's begun to care for him, and then starts getting really close with her to the point of now just being her dad. So anyway, and then Cloud and Party infiltrate the Shinra headquarters and rescue Aerith, and Cloud and Party head for the ground floor but are captured by the Turks. And the remake, Cloud and Party infiltrate the Shinra headquarters and rescue Aerith, and Cloud collapses.
Yep.
And then in the original game, Sephiroth takes Genova and unlocks Cloud's cell. Cloud and Party find the president dead and meet Rufus. Sephiroth kills President Shinra. Cloud and the party escape to the end of the highway, and then the party leave Midgard. That's in the original. And then in remake, you have Cloud encounters the Genova chamber same time as Sephiroth. And then Cloud and Party escape Hojo's lab and find the president hanging off the side of the helipad, which originally he was just stabbed at his desk by Sephiroth and the sword was in him. Right. And so in the original, there's like Sephiroth secretly like unlocks your cell, so you just happen to be able to walk out and blood's just everywhere. And then the president's dead at the end of the hallway, sort of at his desk. But in remake, it didn't play out like that, which I was hoping to see that scene because it's really horrific in the original, with just blood all over the walls and and all that. But in the remake, he's just hanging off of like the helipad and not actually stabbed by Sephiroth. Anyway, so Cloud and Party witness the president's death and fight Genova and meet Rufus. Cloud and the party escape to the end of the highway as the siege continues. Planet deems timeline changes too severe and irreparable by the Whispers. Planet summons Harbinger weapon. Whisper Dome starts to form over Midgard. The containment field ready for mass correction. Cloud and party enter the Singularity and destroy the Harbinger. Cloud and party return to existing timeline. So I guess they deviated from the timeline as they're doing the battle. And
it looks like the Whispers stopped correcting pretty much after the plate dropped. We don't see any more corrections. Am I wrong, or wasn't it the Whispers were trying to kill Wedge at some point to fix it?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were able to work around the Whispers there, and they tried more than once even to kill him.
They're like, die! You need to die.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, in this new, so that's the end there of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and in the original game, that's when they leave Midgard, and then after that, we don't know anything more that's going to take place within Rebirth. Outside of what I just personally played, but I still don't know too much in the moment.
Right.
Anyway, so now we have this new Zack timeline. So whenever that paradox got created because they destroyed this Harbinger weapon, busted all that, but apparently created a paradox where when Cloud and party destroy the Harbinger in the Singularity, this instantly undoes all Harbinger actions through time. However, by undoing the earlier mass correction event, this results in a grandfather paradox. This causes a timeline fracture, a second reality, to branch from the point of the original mass correction event. Okay, so that's making a little more sense now that we read through the rest.
Okay.
So now you have this new Zack timeline because of that. And then timeline fracture explodes, knocks Zack's fate off course. Without the mass correction event, the different stamp and Midgard designs remain in this timeline. Zack lives. So where the original game would start, where Zack would be dead, now Zack lives in this bit. The Sector 7 play is saved in this timeline, and Big survives. So, and Sephiroth takes Genova Hojo's walkway intact. President Shinra is still killed, and Sector 7 residents migrate to Sector 6 to live free from an overhead plate. So we know that those events take place in this new Zack timeline, but that's all we know for right now. Now, we're about to learn a whole bunch of new stuff in Rebirth with this Zack timeline.
So basically, when they say that the grandfather paradox was made, I'm assuming it's basically that in the remake timeline, the Whispers kept correcting everything, but then when we destroyed this, it sort of undid all of that, and therefore, how could this new timeline even exist, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess we have to make a new one?
Interesting. Okay. Because this timeline was only made as a result of us undoing everything, right? But then when we undid everything, then we should have never even been able to get here, I think. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of info, but it does have me excited to obviously keep going and see where it all goes. The only problem I'm having is it's been so long since I played the original Final Fantasy VII that I truly don't remember what is the normal events. I should just watch a recap
of the original now. Yeah. Now that you've gotten all the other watch a recap of the original, which I did as well because my kids. So we went to go watch Advent Children, right? And so I was like, well, you need to at least watch a recap of the original game because Advent Children takes place 2 years after the game ends. And so you're going to have zero context of even who these characters are or anything. So I found a 40-minute video of original recap of the original. We watched that so he was up to speed so he could get into Advent Children. And then after we watched Advent Children, he was really into it and was like, okay, well, we'll watch a recap of Remake and then you can play Rebirth, which he is playing, and he just did. So right, you're about to do it. So right whenever you watch the newscast stuff and then you are back at calm again with the party, when you go to leave the room that you're sort of like telling the story in, it hits you with this card battle, like Queen's Blood is what it's called, and it gives you a tutorial of that. And then so my kid finished a battle in that and then have yet to explore the rest of Calm. And so that's where he's at, which is like maybe 10, 15 minutes past you. But that Queen's Blood game, it is really good.
I just started. That's where I am. I just got the rules for that. Okay, so I'm like right there.
Now, I was very, very confused many times over. I even did a few matches with people, and I was like barely winning, but still not understanding. But at this point, I now fully understand it, and I think it's really fun, actually.
Okay.
But it definitely is a steep learning curve. It's pretty weird. What it's like is, well, you haven't played it. There in Splatoon 3, there is a card game in that. And it is actually really close to that card game. It's as if you mix like, what's that Witcher 3 one? Gwent? It's like if you wished Gwent with the Splatoon 3 card game and mashed them together. And if anyone who plays Splatoon 3 card game, I think you'll agree with me there. It's a very good blending of the two. So, yeah, I really, really enjoy it. And I'm always trying to find people to play against in it. And it keeps unlocking things, which is really cool. Far outside of just like card games, I'm getting a lot of other things and getting a lot of like deep side character story. Like I'm getting a lot of neat moments taking place because I'm going through this card game stuff. So I think it's super worth it. You actually even earn like, let's say, relationship points towards like Aerith or Tifa during different points of this card game chain of events, so which is really funny. But yeah, at this point, I guess I'll just go over my bits of without. I'm not gonna say any story spoiler things or whatever. But in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, what I did is I just 100 and then I turned it off yesterday. I just finished 100%ing the first area, so I got all the points on the map. I did all the battles that they have. So it's almost like Far Cry, but it's not nearly as bad as like, it's not like, or Assassin's Creed, you have like 50 points on the map. What it is they do a good middle ground there to where like, oh, you have to like actually locate a point, and then it may unlock 2 or 3 more points, and then you have to locate those points, and then it kind of spreads that way. So it's not like the map you're gonna see like 100 points, but by the end there may be like 40 or 50 as you unlock some, it unlocks more and more. Like as you're discovering the map, like fog in the map will go away, and it still won't really like show a point unless you have, there's ways of unlocking the points so it really actually shows on your map.
Gotcha.
So it's not so much just running from point A to point B and then just doing the action, go to the other, do the action, go to the other, do the action. It's a little more thought out than that, which is very appreciative because there's always a real weird balance of that when it comes to open world games where I get turned off real fast if I just have a map flooded with icons, right? But thankfully they handle this great. And that's the weird thing too when it comes to anything about this game. I'm questioning, like, is it me just being the most biggest fangirl of all time about this series, or is it actually done really well? Because I keep thinking it's done just really well. And
no, I mean, even everything we just went over is super cool that they didn't have to do all that. You know, people would be very happy with just the normal remake. So. Yeah. No, I think it's actually really cool. And I can't think of any game that's done this kind of thing ever, especially when you reference the game itself like that, you know? So. Even
when you're just in... One thing I praise a lot of games when they do this really well, like, okay, Red Dead Redemption 2, or there was a game that was mentioned recently, and now it's slipping my mind, of like, when you're in a house and just everything's so finely detailed, of just like the jar on the shelf to the curtain on a window to whatever the case may be, everything is so like finely detailed and really well crafted and really filled out and feels real and all of that. They do such a great job on that, which is wild because this game. So I remember last week I was saying, okay, like it's no like Breath of the Wild or anything in map size, and it's not trying to be, but it's actually really good map size compared to how you would think the original game is. I'm starting to walk that back and being like, this is far, far bigger than I thought it was going to be. That beginning little sector of grasslands is pretty massive. Now that I've 100%ed it, it took me a long time. I have 16 hours in the game.
16, okay.
If you zoom out on the map, I mean, that's not that big of a section. If let's say that were to repeat, I don't know exactly how big or small other sections would be, but it's looking to be like 150 hour game.
That's awesome.
But again, that's all just guesswork and all that. But I know you can look up like how long to be. Let's see. I'm assuming there's no way it would be under 100.
I guess it all depends on how much you're doing, really. Because, like main plus sides, which I assume most people will do, it says 71.
So it says 70 to 80 mainlining. But here's the thing is,
I'm seeing 42 for mainline. Are you on how long to beat?
No, I just Googled. It was the first result. Okay, gotcha. I don't even know what it was. I just closed that. But, okay. So mainline and 40, 50. Dude, no way.
That's just mainline.
I know, but I'm sitting there thinking like, I wouldn't want to do that is what I mean by the no way.
Either. No way.
I keep far beyond just like going to a random location on a map and fighting something. No, there's like, most of it is like doing side quests that are actually really interesting side quests. It is far more evolved and better than that, man. And a remake, I mean, there was like a handful of good ones, but I would say the majority were actually not that good. Like, I don't know. Finding the Cats is one that keeps coming to my mind, but there was some others like the Chocobo one. I thought was pretty cool in remake, if you remember that.
I think I do remember that.
But most of them were like generic at best, but actually pretty terrible. Not. But in this one, I have yet to run into a bad side quest. The worst one I can think of is when I got to the new region, Junon. Okay, actually, I need to describe this because this plays into a bigger part here. So, I was like very close to 100%ing grasslands, right? But I couldn't figure out how to get to this certain point on the map. And I kept going around and back and forth. I couldn't figure it out. It was driving me insane. And I was like, well, maybe if I go into the next region, I can get it from the other side, right? So I go through these whole like mining tunnel thing, which is almost like a dungeon for these games. I clear throughout, get to the other side, and then find out that you can't fast travel back to the other. You can't switch between regions and fast travel. You can only fast travel if you're in the same region. And I was like, So I'm like, looking it up and then find out, one of the very first side quests you accept unlocks this Chocobo wagon thing that then allows you to just traverse to the other region and pay like a Chocobo fee or something like that. Okay, cool. And then so I do this quest, and this was the worst one I've came across, but it was still cool because as I'm talking to this guy and he's like, yeah, I need some parts, and he gives me this map, and it's just like 3 X's on the map of a general area of like where these items are. But it's like a map that you hold, not actually the map. It doesn't like translate into your map in the game. And so you kind of have to like match up with the map in-game map to try to figure out where these X's are on it. And then I'm like, man, this is getting like really dumb, tedious things. But it leads into this cool bit with this character that is just addicted to sleeping or something weird. And then so they still had like a cool moment with that. And then it ended up unlocking to where I have to do this like stealth mission to try to like move these train carts and hide behind them so I can get to the backside of this mountain Chocobo, which is like the gray ones. So now I have a mountain Chocobo, and I was able to do little like cool stealth things to try to capture them. and it was like almost like 3 rounds of it, and they got more and more challenging. And it's like cool little mini game thing, met a cool like side character thing, and then got like the mountain chocobo, and now I can like climb up like walls and stuff with the chocobo. And so I'm like, and like this is like one of the dumber ones of side quests that I've come across, and it's like a lot of them are just really cool and interesting, and where I wouldn't want to really like go into them because I think they're just too good to experience on your own. And there's so many awesome things that you can do throughout the map, and it changes up constantly. It never feels like old and repetitive. They keep throwing new things your way. And when I was reading the reviews when this game was coming out, most of them were saying this of like the best thing about this game is the fact that it keeps throwing new things your way, and it's always like fresh and interesting all the way throughout. And so with a game of this size, being able to achieve that and look as good as it does, and the world be as massive as it is, and it really feels like that dream of like what you wish the game was when you were playing it when you were a kid, is just incredible stuff. And so I'm super pleased with it. I think it's, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't, listen, again, I'm not that far, but if remake is any indication, it sounds like this is even better. Yeah, I'm super into it, super excited. I just got to get going. This always happens when a new game first comes out, even if I'm super excited about it. Just got to really lean into it. I'm not playing anything else now, so yeah, this is pretty much what I'm going to be playing for the next while here. So.
One thing I was worried about is like, okay, Midgard was awesome, really cool city. You really got to dive a lot throughout it, but it's just one city, and they can focus on that and make it really fleshed out and cool because they don't have a whole world to fill this out with, right? And I was like, yeah, but when this game comes out, and now we know they are doing it, but even at the time I remember thinking, okay, if it is open world, like, how can we know it's gonna hold up to this quality all throughout this open world? There's just no way. But I am now a full believer. I mean, even just finishing that first sector, now being into the second, I can tell you, like, exploring Calm, that's just a small little town in the original game, very tiny town. And this is super fleshed out, way more massive than I was ever anticipating. And when you go to Junon region and all that, it's not even that big of a city. It's a little bigger than Calm, but in this game too, Junon is also bigger than even Calm was. And they're still keeping the same scales with all the city. So like now in my head, knowing all of these different towns and cities and everything, dude, this game is going to be massive, gigantic. And like even just exploring those cities, I mean, like, this isn't me going back to hating on 16, okay? Because it's a whole different type of game. But I remember being disappointed because I wanted to go to different cities and explore big, massive things and all that. This is what I was wanting. This is what I was urging. And the fact that we actually got it and they nailed it as good as they did, I didn't think it could be possible. They could live up to such insane, not even expectation, because I don't even think people were like expecting it to do it this well, because it's like, well, how that must take just so much people and money and time and all that. And the fact that, I mean, Remake was only 3 or 4 years ago and we got this after. I mean, it's super impressive.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the best open world designs I've played, and it's so massive and everything's like so incredibly detailed, and the cities are so vibrant and all that. I'm just blown away. I can't believe it.
I can't wait. I'm excited to really get into it and get going on it. So I might watch that the recap video of the original Final Fantasy VII first.
Yeah.
Just before I get pretty far, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right.
But yeah, I'm glad I watched all that stuff and we talked about it, because I feel like I have a much better understanding of it now, which will obviously make me enjoy it more. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious on this new Zack timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And because, yeah, I mean, so if we get to like switch back and forth and then like, oh, now we're playing as Zack fighting stuff, one, that's just cool enough on its own. But we're going to be with Aerith, and are they going to be like, because they were just straight up like, agreeing with each other that they sort of liked each other and all of that. So you're not going to have any weird like in the original game and in any like JRPG or anime or anything like that, there's always this like they like each other but aren't open about it, and it's this underlining thing, and it's like we're gonna keep it I don't know, friendly for like an 8-year-old as if they were watching or something like that. But I'm curious how Final Fantasy VII is gonna function with the fact of it being them two together and openly like dating each other as they play through the game. You know what I mean? Yeah, we don't usually get that in media.
It's cool. It's gonna be cool to see like, these possibilities that you would never have thought. No one would ever thought when you played the original way back when that you'd get this totally different possible outcome. So yeah.
Now, one last question I'm gonna ask you: Aerith or Tifa?
Oh boy. Well, when I played the original, I was always more Team Tifa. Not that I didn't like Aerith, of course I love her, but I don't know. I think I still lean more her way, But in the remake, I was almost throwing Jesse in there too. I was like, oh, we got 3 to choose from now because they pushed Jesse out more, But now it's awesome.
Apparently, I mean, in the trailer even, we got a bit to where wasn't there a scene to where like Jesse was at a play or something? Hold on, in the trailer, I think Jesse's like, hold on, I think Jesse's still alive in Zack's timeline.
In Zack's timeline, they don't specify, but I think so, right?
There's a lot of theories going around, and I think I saw something super compelling, and I wish I could remember what it was. But I want to say, in Zack's timeline, we already know for sure that Biggs survives, where he dies in the original and he dies in remake, but in Zack's timeline, he survives. But there's also a chance of Jesse surviving in that. So we may actually get some Jesse still in this new game when we're over in Zack's timeline. So know that that's a possibility. So, which would be cool because, I do really like Jesse. That'd be neat.
Yeah, I would love that. So, well, Biggs and Wedge we know for sure at this point.
In Zack's timeline, Big survives, I'm guessing.
Oh, and then Wedge survives in remake too.
Yeah. Wedge is alive in Rebirth right now. We know that for sure. And in the timeline that the rest of the party is that we're normally playing in, it's Biggs who dies. And then anyway. All right. But I think that'll do it.
Yeah, that was good. That was fun.
I spent most of the day yesterday. I was like, I'm not going to stop until I 100% this area. And then what's funny is it was like I couldn't 100% it. And I was like, motherfucker, I can't get the stupid point. I was like, so I do all this Junon stuff. And then I did that quest. Like I said, now I can finally. So I was so happy to be able to go back into the grasslands, finish that one last thing. All it was is there was a staircase that I didn't notice. So there's a swamp area that I think actually looks pretty cool. It reminds me of 15 swamp area, which I really like that part. But, and then it leads to the snake getting killed on the stake kind of scene with that in the original game that Sephiroth kills or whatever. So they even like address that whole bit in that scene, which I'm not going to get into because there's a lot. I mean, I have so many questions of how things are going to play out with like what the hell is Sephiroth wanting now, because it doesn't seem like he's trying to actually get Cloud's help. And
I see.
It's getting weird. Which I guess in the original he kept trying to like take over Cloud's mind and get him to do this or that. And there was a point where like in the original game where he was about to kill Tifa or about to kill Aerith, and then he like stops himself from doing so. But so yeah, it's gonna get interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. That's part where he puts the thing on the stake too. I do remember that. Pretty interesting. So
yeah. All right. Well, till next week.
Later.
Bye-bye.